These are 10 cons about having an e-bike. If you're not sure what cons mean, basically it's just negative points about having an e-bike. So I definitely recommend you watch this video before you buy an e-bike. So the first con is that e-bikes are expensive. They are definitely more expensive than a normal bike, but trust me, it is worth it. I've had an e-bike now for over a year and I've never looked back. I absolutely love my e-bike. But one thing I can say when buying an e-bike, you don't need a carbon e-bike, as weight is not an issue because you have a motor. So go for a cheaper option and buy an aluminium bike, which I have. I have an aluminium bike and I have absolutely no issues with it. The second con is that e-bikes are extremely heavy. My e-bike weighs 24 kilograms. Just to put it into perspective for you guys, my previous bike, which was a carbon full suspension mountain bike, weighed about 11.5 kilograms. So my e-bike now is more than double what my regular bike weighed, which is pretty damn heavy. So the weight of the bike doesn't really play a role or isn't really an issue on the climbs or the flats because you have a motor that pushes you forward. But it does take some getting used to on the single track, the jumps, the rock gardens, and pretty much any technical feature. But from personal experience, my e-bike feels just like a regular bike now because I've been riding it for so long and I'm so used to it. It feels exactly like a normal bike. So the weight isn't really an issue on the single track for a very long time. The third con is that my e-bike battery doesn't last as long as what it used to when I first got the bike. When I first got the bike, it lasted maybe 5 to 6 hours on a charge, on a full charge. But now a full charge lasts me maybe 4 to 5 hours. So it does deteriorate over time. But this is like any battery. Have you ever noticed how your cell phone's battery doesn't really last that long after 2 to 3 years? So it's normal. But one thing I can say to keep your battery life as good as possible for as long as possible, when you charge your e-bike full, ride it until it's almost completely flat and then charge it again. And then ride it until it's completely flat again and then charge it again. So keep repeating that. Don't charge it full, then ride it for half an hour and then charge it full again. Your battery's got to kind of get into that pattern of being full and then empty and then full and then empty. I hope that makes sense. And I have done some research on what batteries cost, and my battery in my e-bike costs about 25,000 Rand. So it's definitely not cheap to replace. So you're going to want to look after it as well as you possibly can. The fourth con is a bit of a silly one, but people make so much fun of you when they see that you're on an e-bike and they're on a normal bike. Especially if you're a young guy like me. I'm only 23 and I'm riding an e-bike. So you can imagine how many jokes are thrown my way. I am a mountain bike coach, so an e-bike is the perfect tool for me, but people don't know that. So when they see me on an e-bike and they hear me buzzing past because the motor does make a little bit of a noise, then they are always quick to chirp me. But I'm so used to it by now and it's just jokes. So there's no need to take it personally. It's part of the game. It's part of having an e-bike. The fifth con is that e-bikes are extremely sluggish on tar road or flat gravel road when the motor stops assisting you. The motor stops assisting you at 26 kilometers per hour, or at least this is the case with my e-bike. Some e-bikes go up to 32 kilometers per hour, some go to 25 kilometers per hour, some go to 30 kilometers per hour. So all e-bikes have a different max speed. But this doesn't mean you can't go to 40 or 50 kilometers per hour. You can, by all means. You just have to use your own leg power to get to that speed. The motor's not going to help you with that one. The sixth con is that e-bikes are extremely bulky, thick frame and thick tires, and it's difficult to transport sometimes, especially on a bike rack. E-bikes don't often fit on most bike racks. So you have to be super creative of how you put your bike on your bike rack, or how you transport your bike, or where you store it, or whatever the case may be, because they are much bigger and much heavier and much fatter than a regular mountain bike. So I just want to wish the best of luck to anyone out there with an e-bike and a roof rack, because I can't imagine picking my e-bike up and putting it on a roof rack. That is going to be such a mission. The seventh con is that sometimes you do forget to charge your e-bike. It happens. It's happened to me before many times, and being stuck on the trails with a flat e-bike is terrible because the e-bike is extremely heavy to pedal with your own leg power. So good luck to you guys if you get stuck out there with a flat battery. You have been warned. The eighth con is that e-bikes are extremely heavy on drivetrains because the bike is so heavy and it gives out so much power. The chain and the cassette and the front chainring take a lot of wear and tear in a shorter period of time than a normal bike would. Although, from my personal experience, I haven't yet replaced my group set, and I've had my e-bike for over a year, but I do ride my bike very carefully and very nicely, and I shift my gears as smooth as possible. So if you do take care of your gears and shift them properly and just take care of your bike, then it shouldn't give you unnecessary problems. But one tip that I can give you guys is I would ride a cheaper group set than normal, because e-bikes do chow group sets. So you don't want to put a golden XX1 cassette on your e-bike and then it's going to be worn out in 6 months to a year. You're going to want to put on a Shimano XT or something cheaper onto your e-bike so that it's not so expensive to replace. The ninth con is that it can be difficult to ride tight switchbacks or any tight trail situations. as the motor kind of kicks in and then it stops helping, and then it kicks in and it stops helping. So usually when you're doing a switchback or a tight corner or anything tight on the trails, you kind of don't do full pedal strokes. You kind of do like a push, 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 push. And every time you do the push, the motor activates. And then every time you reload for the next push, the motor stops and then it activates again. So it gives you kind of like mini accelerations, which do make it a little bit more tricky to ride out the technical situation. I hope that makes sense. But once again, this does take some getting used to. I don't even notice this happening to me anymore. I'm so used to the bike. The 10th con is not really an issue, but the bike does make a noise when you ride it. You kind of sound like a very large mosquito that just doesn't want to stop buzzing in your ear at night. So when you're riding on the trails, minding your own business, and an e-bike comes past you, it kind of sounds like this. So they do make a little bit of an annoying sound, but once again, it's something that you get used to. But unfortunately, if you're trying to hide the fact that you ride an e-bike, it's going to be very difficult with the sound that e-bikes make. So if you're going past a group of riders, they're definitely going to know that you are on an e-bike. You can't hide it. So anyways, those were my 10 cons or 10 disadvantages of having an e-bike. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it maybe entertaining, or maybe even learned something. Definitely subscribe if you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.